How about them Irish?
I can't take it anymore. I need a national championship.
This is the Four Horsemen Podcast.
Ba-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da. 1 and 9. 1 and 9. Steve, how you doing?
Much better than the Seminole. That's for certain. How about you, Dylan? You had yourself quite the week. You were in South Bend for this one. How was that,
It
buddy?
was awesome. Tim and I, shout out Tim Flynn, were doing that chant the entire second half. It was amazing. The ushers loved it. The fans around us chuckled. And I think that makes us the highlight of the week in terms of fandom. So I'm doing good, man. 52-3. Holy shit, we got a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Total dominance. It was. Remember at the beginning of the year when we discussed that this might potentially be game of the year, right? Like both teams might have been coming in 9-0, and it could have been like a top 5 matchup. And boy, oh boy, did that just flat out not happen. And just to riff on really quick and to harp on it. Where does Florida State go from here? Do they keep Norvell? Do they fire him? Because he is a good coach. He had the program in a good spot. Obviously, the quarterback position is just like putrid. They did lose a lot of guys to the draft, but they're probably going to get some decent recruits. They probably have some. I don't like where does Florida State go after this season? Because there's a really good chance they go 1-11.
Yeah, it's remarkable how bad they are compared to how good we expected them to be. I'm wondering if this is the anomaly or if Norvell's season last year was the anomaly, because he's got 3 losing seasons under his belt at Florida State. And he's got 2 winning ones, if I got that right. I don't think he's all that great anymore. I think there were some decisions he made in that game. I was talking to some Florida State fans, and they were like, why did he call the timeout when Notre Dame was going for that field goal before halftime? And after the timeout, we come back to the field and we go for it on 4th down because obviously our kicker missed a really bad kick early in that game. And, I thought that was a good point. It looks like that team has quit on them. They were supposed to have a good defense. There's talent on that defense, but it didn't really matter. And, offensively, it is what it is. What's sad is DJ Uiagalelei probably doesn't play any better than what they had this week. So, to answer your question, where does Florida State go from here? We're in the NIL world where building a team overnight can actually happen not too bad. Florida State did a lot of that last year. So there'll be opportunities for them to build, but you got to think, that portal's coming early in December. If Norvell gets fired, there's not a lot of time to do your scouting and get everything up to speed. I think they're going to keep him. From what I'm hearing, it sounds like it's more so, well, obviously they had fired 3 of their assistant coaches after the game, but I think they'll be prioritizing building guys around Norvell. He's also got a huge contract there. So where do they go? Florida is incompetent right now, the Gators, although they're better than we kind of expected them to be this season. And Miami is not fully back yet, I don't think. So Florida State will have plenty of recruiting opportunities as well. I'm not too worried about them, but I do think it's going to take maybe another year or 2 to kind of get back to where they feel like they should be.
Yeah. Well, what should have been a phenomenal game, what should have been, just a really a marquee matchup, really ended up kind of being a dud, and it's concerning. I really don't like Florida State. I don't hate them, but I don't like them. And a lot of that is obviously just anger over 2014, and I'll just never get over that pick play or phantom pick play. But I want them to be a perennial 9-10 win team or more. just so that way, there's not a power vacuum in the ACC with Clemson or Miami, right? It's like those three teams kind of duking it out, and then you'll kind of see other teams pop up, like possibly Pittsburgh, SMU, like that. That's fun to keep it competitive, and then it's just a great brand for Notre Dame to play every couple of years where, there's history there. Obviously, 1993 when we won the national championship, and that absolutely counts. Like it should be a great game. I'm obviously thrilled we beat the living piss out of them. I do want them to rebound, but I want us to I want them to be a top 5 team every time we play, and I want us to beat them every time we play. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
absolutely. I don't know if they'll be in the ACC much longer, but I agree with you. You obviously want them to keep that conference competitive and make another marquee game for us to go to. Even though this was a lot of fun and campus was buzzing for it, you could tell it was people bought their tickets ahead of time, so this was going to be a good environment one way or another. And credit to Notre Dame fans and also the Seminole fans for really showing up for it.
So you said that the campus was buzzing. Speaking of which, Dylan, you were in there. You were in the house that Rockney built. So I just want to get a little bit of insight into what your experience was in regards to the game at South Bend. I mean, we'll take us through it. I'll interview you. Let's start with like what was the travel like? Because I know that you're coming from Canada, but you've been flipping back and forth between the west coast of Canada and east coast. So did you come from the east or west this time?
The Far East, some might say. Um, so
Okay.
I had just moved to Halifax, which is Nova Scotia. It's in the Atlantic time zone, so it's actually an hour ahead of you guys in the eastern seaboard. Um, and it's just a little bit of a smaller city. It's about 500,000 people, and it doesn't have as many direct flights to the United States. And we also booked our flights very late, so we had 3 flights to take and a train. So I flew Halifax to Ottawa, Ottawa to Toronto, Toronto to Chicago, Midway, and then we took a cab downtown Union Station. Then we took the train to South Bend. We got in very late on Thursday. And then, of course, on Sunday, we do the reverse of that, except instead of Ottawa, I stopped in Montreal. But long travel, man. I've lost probably a good 16 hours to travel over the weekend.
That's commitment to the team that we obviously adore. Um, Now, so you got in Thursday. Were you traveling with anyone, or like where did you stay? Were you at like an Airbnb, a hotel? What was the
Yeah, so I
accommodations?
went with my uncle Devin, big Notre Dame fan. Very large reason why I'm a Notre Dame fan. So we booked this together. We traveled together, and we stayed at an Airbnb with a few friends. Shout out Tim and his fellow friends as well that he tagged along. So we were, I think we ended up being about 9 in the Airbnb. That really saved our costs that way. The Airbnb was awesome. It had, like in the locker room where they have the national championships and the play like a champion today thing. They had that going into the basement,
Hmm.
so I'd hit that thing every time. And instead of play like a champion, it was stay like a champion today, which is a little corny, but I'll take it. Uh,
No, no, there's nothing corny about that. I love it. I did see that on your you were posting on socials, and that was really cool. Was there like were you guys like playing like drinking games in the basement? What was that setup
we
like?
crashed right away on our first day, and then yeah,
Well,
yeah. Then
Thursday,
like
yeah, yeah.
Friday, yeah, we did some drinking. We had some many beers, and then Saturday we had some more beers, but then we all had to get up early, so it wasn't as much of a house party as I'd love it to be. But we had a great time, and
Hmm.
all of the important stuff was done, which is what counts.
Okay, so I famously still have not yet been to South Bend. My only Notre Dame game that I've experienced was at Yankee Stadium against Syracuse a couple of years ago. I actually ran into Mr. Wagon there, all those years ago. That was what 2021 or something.
I think it was
Um,
2018. I
Maybe
think that
even
was that first year we went to the playoff with the.
it was, yeah, because I'm thinking 2021 is when I got married, so it was way before that. Holy crap, I'm getting old. Um, so I've not been to South Bend yet, and it's on the agenda. The last couple years, get married, moved from Boston to South Carolina, have my first kid. So there's been some milestones that had to be checked off along the way, but I'm hoping to get to South Bend next year. Um, but like what? So you got in late Thursday. You had all day Friday. Obviously, I know Saturday you would tailgate. That's to be expected. But what was your Friday like? Like, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Where were you eating at? At the Airbnb. Were you eating out at bars in the area? Talk me
Yeah, we
through
went
that.
out Friday morning for breakfast, kind of 10, 15 minutes from the Airbnb downtown South Bendish, which is a really nice area. Downtown South Bend is quaint. It's really nice. It's the city's definitely revitalized over the last 10, 15 years. But we went there, uh, went up to campus. Uncle and I, we did the stops, right? So bookstore, of course, but we also went to the cemetery to check out some important graves. We got to see Newt Rockne, Eric Barsegian, Regis Philbin is buried there. Lou Holtz is got a gravestone. He's not dead yet. Don't worry, folks. But his wife Beth is, and they're buried next to each. They're going to be buried next to each other, so his name is on the gravestone as well. So we got to check out all that, and then of course you just at Notre Dame you just got to do the magical walk. You gotta go around campus. You gotta take in the sights and sounds, and we went to the trumpets outside the dome, which is drives me nuts that it's not inside anymore. But we went into the dome, took our pictures pretty much everywhere we can go. Went to the grotto, of course. Went to the linebacker before all that. We actually got some drinks first. Met a lot of cool people from Twitter at the linebacker, and yeah, it was a long day, and it goes by fast though. That's what's struggling. That's what's so struggling with it is you think you have the time to do everything, Steve, but it comes quick to you. You gotta be efficient with it. So we had a good time on Friday, but Saturday's where all the action was.
Nice. Yeah, because obviously I'm a golfer and like I've already checked out, what the rates are and what the course is like there. So like that would be my ideal like little trip is to get in, play golf like Friday morning, and then kind of strew about campus in the afternoon, and then grab drinks and everything on Friday night. But that leads us into Saturday. I know that you and Timmy were tailgating. Where were you guys posted up, and then what was that experience like? Because this was what, a 7:30 kickoff, so you were well, not local time. You guys were an hour behind. So, but what was the day like on Saturday leading up to the game?
It is local time. Notre Dame's in Eastern time zone.
Oh, would you look at that?
Indiana splits. It is weird. I noticed that because on the train our phones changed. I couldn't tell you what lot we were in. We were close, but we pulled up to Timmy's tailgate. He's got his big old Hummer type vehicle. Got his food. He made garbage plates, which is just a collection of meat and sides just put onto a plate. And then yeah, you know how tailgates are. Everybody's around. Beer is basically free for everyone. Obviously, you bring your own and stuff, but you just grab what you can. People always really welcoming and willing to give you what they have, which is great because it's such a community feel. And yeah, we did that for a few hours. So playing games, chatting with people. My uncle and I left to go do the player walk, which was really cool. Like the vibe for the player walk was nuts. I think I scared Derek Meadows, so I was meaning to tell you guys this. So we did the player walk, and the guys are going by, and Freeman is there first. So I'm not afraid to say things. So I was like, "Let's go, coach," and he looked at me, and I'm like, "Absolutely." Marcus Freeman looked at me. This is twice now we've locked eyes, and I'm just saying, "Let's go, boys, kick some ass," things like that. Before the recruits come, it's the players coming first. Bo Collins shows up, and he gives a big hug to the people next to me. And I realize this whole time I've been standing next to Bo Collins' family. And, I stick my hand out. Bo gives me a handshake, dabs me up. That's awesome. I actually speak with the Collins family. They told us to keep doing what we're doing. They gave me one of Bo's wristbands. Very nice. It's like bow time. Uh, Great people. It was really fun to interact with them and get to meet them because we've interacted on social media. So seeing Bo Collins was great. Just hyping up the boys, and then I made the effort because we don't tweet at recruits, but there's nothing about shouting at them when they're doing the player walk, right? So the players going by, and I want to show some love. So I'm just clapping, welcome home, guys. And I recognize Derek Meadows because he's a very recognizable dude, very tall. You just know him when you see him.
6'5".
And
Yeah.
I said, I think I shouted like kind of quickly like, "Welcome home, Derek," and he like startled and like looked back, and I was like, "Oh God, I scared him." No, I just don't think he was expecting me to say something, or if maybe didn't expect people to recognize them. But this is Notre Dame, man. We recognize you. We know who we're after. So huge recruiting weekend. Got to clap in all the boys. It was such a great experience. That was something I hadn't got to do before. So the player walk was really really cool. And then yeah, it's after that it's just more drinking time until you stumble into a stadium.
Beautiful. And then we know the game was awesome. That was phenomenal, and I can only imagine that it was a great time. Like you said, the 1-9 chant was hilarious. Last question. Heading into the fourth quarter, they do like the light show and everything. This ended up you and Mr. Wagon ended up with a little bit of controversy on the old X.com, formerly Twitter. How was the music? How was the light show? How was that? And what were your thoughts, and what would you replace it with, if
It was
anything?
underwhelming. I didn't know the song, and I was trying to, get into it, but Timmy was actually, if I recall correctly, really critical of it. He's like, "This is the biggest recruiting weekend of the year, and that's what they're playing," and that kind of like snuck into my brain. I was like, "Yeah, that is kind of disappointing. What are we doing there?" Um, I just didn't know who the guy was. I understand the '90s are kind of back, but there are some pretty big artists in the '90s that everyone knows. Like, I don't know. Look, as long as the kids like it, the recruits like it, the students liked it, I don't care. But it was a little underwhelming, especially because I was there last year for the USC game, and that light show was just phenomenal.
Mm,
But what was really cool, Steve, I don't know if you guys got to see it. John Bon Jovi was there, and at halftime, they
it's not.
did their tributes to him. So they played "You Give Love a Bad Name," "It's My Life," and "Living on a Prayer." The band did. And then John Bon Jovi gets up and he's the guest conductor and he leads us off with the fight song. So I recorded a lot of that. That was super cool. I like Bon Jovi, I always have. And to kind of see all that stuff was great. The fans get in on it, sing it together. So that was a really great halftime performance. Even though it was freezing and I wanted to get inside to warm up my hands, once I saw he was out there, I had to go sit down for it. But yeah, great stuff, and an even better football game. And what's amazing is we played like shit in the first quarter. If you ask me, like the first half, even I didn't think we were a good team, and we went into it 21-3. And I was talking to a Knowles fan, and I said, "Man, you guys are bad. Like we're not playing well, and we're up. The game's over already, and we are playing really poorly in that first half." So,
Mm.
respect to those Knowles who showed up. A lot of them did. They were friendly. One of them, I should go back to the player walk for a second. One guy who's pretty funny and pretty ballsy. Before the players came, one Seminoles fan walked because there's two lines of people, right? Like making a pathway for people, like the players to walk through. One Seminole fan got in the middle of it and just walked, doing the tomahawk chop the whole way. And Notre Dame fans were booing the hell out of him. Honestly,
That's a
that's
Florida man.
ballsy. I respect it. But with the exception of that ballsy move, every Florida State fan there was so nice. Not a problem at all. So kudos to them. And I'm looking forward to go to Tallahassee someday.
Hell yeah. Um, cool. Wait. So Dylan, are you a 94 or 95? When were you born?
97.
97. That's what I thought originally. I went on the lower end. And you never heard "Let Me Clear My Throat"?
No, and like I got a deep catalog of music, and then like I'm not the biggest hip hop guy, but I've got a good amount of hip hop, especially from the '90s. I didn't know this one, and I'm just like, who is this kind of old guy shouting on the field? Like, I don't know, man. I thought he was like a local guy or something that they were just hyping up, like a
The 90s were the fucking best, man. You missed out. The 90s were the fucking best.
That's what people in the '80s say. That's what people in
Well,
the '70s say. That's what people in the '60s say. You know what? I think every decade is better than the one we're in, and that applies to all time.
I think 9/11 happened, and then just like nothing ever was
That's
good
a good
ever
point,
again.
actually. And speaking of airports, I have something to bitch about. I I can
Let it
pick
rip.
an American apart anywhere in the world because you take your shoes off at the airport. You're the only weirdo country that does this. And when I was going back through security to get back to Canada, they made me take my shoes off, and I'm like, The bomb isn't in my shoes, guys. There's like, why do I need to take this off? It makes no sense. You're screening through my pants. You can literally see my penis on the other end of things, okay? So don't pretend that my shoes are the problem, right? When you could see every vein in my body, probably. Like, I don't know, man. This is, I hate airport security here. I hate it everywhere. I think it's a useless government function that just makes things harder for people. Not to get political.
You're speaking my language, brother. I mean, defund the TSA. I'm with
Exactly.
you.
And to the shoes, damn it, I was so pissed off.
Yeah. Well, when Elon comes in with Doge and cleans that up, it'll be all set. And then we're sending Doge to the moon in terms of cryptocurrency. Don't take financial advice from me. It's a fucking
Yeah,
meme
that's
coin.
only your profession.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's only my profession to help people with their retirement savings. But anyway, okay. So we've gone through the experience. I'm once again obviously really jealous because haven't been there yet, but hopefully next year, and I can't wait. Between the lines, things looked great. Notre Dame kicked the living shit out of them. Riley Leonard had that really exciting run, pocket collapse. He made a quick decision. I think Leonard is getting to the point where obviously he's a runner, and there's nothing wrong with that in college. Use your strengths, and as long as you're making quick and concise decisions, you're going to put yourself in a good spot. And man, they talk about it on the broadcast all the time, but he's sneaky elusive. Like, he doesn't look like he's moving fast, but he really is, and it's
That's
kind of
racism.
crazy.
That's my hot take. Sneaky athlete is just. It's like, guys, he's just an athlete. Just
We got to stand up for white men. We've been oppressed long enough in this country. Yeah. Um, so you know what, man? But no, things went great. We basically kicked the living shit out of them. I don't think we need to get overly analytical, but Dylan, give a shout out. Who is your horseman?
I'm gonna go Jadarian Price, man. He just bounces off people and takes off. Like that Texas A&M run to start the year where he scored that touchdown. I didn't realize I would see that like every week, where he just rips a 40-plus yard touchdown run, and it's been almost every week. Big shout out to him. He was averaging like 13 a carry. He gets like 7 touches for almost 100 yards. Man, we are so spoiled at running back right now. It is disgusting. The game started. I mean, the first down we got was an Aeneas Williams 20-yard pickup, like on a screen. That's our 4th or 5th running back on the depth chart, and that's not including Jabron Payne, who's out for the year. Like, this is disgusting. Like, what has happened to Notre Dame, man? Like, we've improved so much at so many of these positions. We're getting close.
Especially the cornerback and just the defensive backfield position, which has been phenomenal. And it's I'm not saying anything that anyone who's watched Notre Dame football over the last 25 years doesn't know. It's good to finally have a secondary. They're playing phenomenal. But my horseman is actually coming from the defensive line. Riley Mills, 3 sacks on the day. He had 2 back-to-back, breaking through and just totally dominating. He's starting to come into his own, setting the tone in the center of that defensive line, the center of that defense. And as we get into football weather, running the ball, he's got to plug up those holes. As we get up, as we're heading into, knock on wood, conceivably a playoff matchup, or multiple playoff matchups. Again, knock on wood, and hopefully, he's going to be instrumental with kind of locking down the center of that defense. So, Florida State might be down this year, but it's still a talented roster. Just these things do fucking happen in football. Like Notre Dame went 4-8 a couple of years back, but we know that they were better than what that record was. So shit happens, but he played great against a good team.
2 things there. One, yes, but we still won 4 games. That's why I find it miraculous that Florida State is 1-9. Like, that shit Notre Dame team. And to be fair, they lost a lot of one-score games close. But
our defense was horrible,
still, they won 4 games. Like, Florida State hasn't played a tough schedule. Sure, they had to play Miami, they had to play Notre Dame, but, like, the rest of the schedule is winnable. Second thing, I forgot, Steve. What were you saying?
we're getting into playoff season, cold weather season. He's gonna plug up the middle of that defense.
Right. Another thing about Florida State, unrelated, but that helped me. Nobody's
Yeah.
blown them out like that. So we could dismiss them as a 1-9 dog shit team, but nobody's beat that 1-9 team by 49 points. Nobody's gotten close to it. In fact, SMU and Miami's combined margins of victory is smaller than Notre Dame's.
Yeah, no, that is one thing that's why I'm saying, like, no, on paper, yeah, they are 1-9, but they've had a lot of closer matchups than normal, and the only reason that they're losing these games is because their offense is putrid. Their defense is still pretty decent. But yeah, just again, it's the way the cookie crumbles in the world of football. Thankfully, it doesn't crumble that way for Notre Dame. We advanced to 8-1, 9-1, doesn't matter. Couple games left. 2 games left, so we are 9-1. 8-1. I can't do math. Sorry, my baby has been waking me up every day at 5 o'clock in the morning lately with the time change, and it has me in an absolute fucking blender. So I apologize to the audience.
I'll take that opportunity to say the bookstore is awesome. There's actually 2 of them. I only remember there being 1. Expensive though. Steve, you know how much those premium American dollars cost me, right? And like I got this beautiful 47 vintage throwback here.
I was gonna ask what type of swag you picked up. So other than that, I mean, which is gorgeous. That's amazing. Did you grab anything
else?
This
was 100 premium American dollars. I got. I forgot my workout stuff at home, like workout gear, so I can like get sweaty and stuff. So I picked up. They sell Play Like a Champion today, but in a workout Under Armour shirt. So I picked up that. Great fabric. I really love it. It's like navy with the yellow. And then I got a Yeti travel mug. I figured Yeti's supposed to be the best. It's beautiful, embroidered with like a silver leprechaun, like the logo, blue Yeti thing. That was 50 premium American.
$45.
Premium American dollars. I bought a lanyard. I bought a little pin because I buy pins anytime I travel anywhere. That's like I collect them. And yeah, I think that was it, Steve. But it was a lot of money at the end of the day. It was probably over 200 premium American dollars, which is like 6,000 Canadian. So I'm in the hole.
But it's worth it. And for anyone that's listening that has not yet made the trip to Notre Dame, just understand that you got to budget out a couple $100 for a haul whenever you go. It's just factor it in. Just like when I go on golf trips, you factor in that you're going to raid the clubhouse and spend a few $100. Price it into the trip. That is how it works. All right. Well, Dylan, I'll let you see us into the next section here as we wrap up the Notre Dame's big 52-3 win against the Florida State Seminoles.
We're doing the college football playoff shakeup. Is that it, Steve? Is that where we're headed with this?
Yeah, pretty much. We're just going in through scenarios, the general landscape, what we could possibly end up with as a seed. Again, knock on wood, if we take care of our business these last 2 games.
Thank you for delaying a little bit so my computer could load so I could read off these rankings for everyone. This is what the playoff picture, the rankings look like as of today. Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Indiana, BYU, Tennessee, Notre Dame at number 8, Miami, Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia. Boise State is the highest ranked G5 team, so they would be the 12 seed. Georgia would be knocked out of the playoff, and Notre Dame would be the 9 seed at Tennessee. That is our current shakeup. It looks like this football team, should they win out, will host a home playoff game. They simply need either Indiana or Tennessee to lose a game and fall behind us. Now, there is a chance if Georgia beats Tennessee that Georgia could jump us. I think that's a little unlikely because Georgia's at 12. So we should be good. So, root for the Bulldogs or root for the Buckeyes. And we'll see. But I think as long as we get a home game, we should be good because, to be honest with you, Steve, I like Notre Dame against all those teams. All of them. At home, give me any team I just listed at home.
Next week, Indiana goes to the Horseshoe to play at Ohio State. So more likely than not, it's a big noon game. I mean, that's fucking pathetic. the number 2 versus number 5 team. Again, it's big noon. The Big Ten is pathetic, dude. That is like, how is that not a night game? But I would expect Ohio State to win that game. So that's already, either one of two things is happening this weekend. Either Tennessee loses and then we jump up a spot, if Georgia doesn't jump us, or Tennessee wins and then Georgia, which is arguably the most talented roster in all of college football, actually drops out completely of contention altogether. So I really don't think, in regards to the Georgia-Tennessee game, that we can lose. But here's an interesting question: is if Indiana goes into Ohio State and wins, they will be 11-0. They'll probably finish the season 12-0, and they play in the Big Ten championship against Oregon. That would leave the current number 2 team in the country, Ohio State, at 2 losses. They would be 10-2. Does a 10-2 team that only lost to the number 1 and probably number 2 teams in the country at that point, in Indiana and Oregon, are they going to be ranked ahead of Notre Dame still?
No.
I don't think that they should be, but would that, what do you think that effect would be on seeding?
No, they won't be ahead of us, I don't think. The committee seems to be prioritizing losses. For example, BYU and Indiana are both ranked ahead of us. Texas is kind of the odd one out, as is Ohio State, but for good reasons, right? They lost to really good teams. I think that would hold true. I think a 2-loss team will not be ahead of Notre Dame. However, I do think Ohio State would still make the playoff. And I actually think of all those teams, I'm sick of Ohio State, and I don't really want to see them in the first round. So if Indiana beats them, we might be positioned to actually host them in the playoffs, which would be a great experience. But of all those 12 teams, I would rather play Ohio State later. I want to get just give me a Southern team at home, or give me like Penn State at home. That won't happen, but someone like that. So it's a good question. I could see it because they do have a win over Penn State, that they could theoretically be ranked ahead of Notre Dame, but I would say I'm leaning no on that one. But you know what? That's a good question, because my answer was hard initially, and I'm opening up to it a little bit.
Yeah, because if your only losses are against the 1 and 2, again, Notre Dame is 10x better as a program than what we were in regards to NIU, and we don't need to rehash that. It's kind of bullshit. But Notre Dame is absolutely a top 5 team in the country right now, 100%. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, in regards to resumes and everything, that it'd be interesting to see how that shakes out. So honestly, I am just rooting for Ohio State to win that game, as much as I would love to see Indiana win. And it'll do better for us to just have Ohio State lock up that high seed, just stay the fuck away from us. Right now, I am projecting Notre Dame to be the 7 seed hosting Tennessee at home, the 10 seed, and then the winner would go on to play Texas, the 2 seed. I've gamed it out. I've gone through like conference championships. I've gone through the rest of the games of the season. That's what I'm seeing right now. But
do you have Tennessee winning or losing to Georgia? Like, how do you get them or at 10?
I have them losing against Georgia.
And still getting in as a 2-loss team.
Correct. Yes.
That I would like that,
because so would Alabama, and so would Georgia.
Tennessee has a head over Alabama
and Ole Miss.
That's going to be a nightmare.
Actually, wait.
Yeah, because
No, Alabama would. I excluded Alabama in my scenario, so I'll go through my seeds real quick, and again, I kind of game theoried everything out, but 9 UGA, 8 Ole Miss, winner plays number 1 Oregon, 12 Boise State, 5 Penn State, winner plays number 4 Miami, 10 Tennessee, 7 Notre Dame, winner plays number 2 Texas. And then number 11, Indiana, against number 6, Ohio State, a rematch. Winner plays number 3, BYU.
That is, well, first of all, fuck Ohio State for getting that path. But do you think the committee will deliberately avoid a rematch? Like, you did it off merit, right? Like, you just did it the best you could, and that's what you came up with. Do you think the committee might be like, and then they might sub someone for someone?
Yeah, they probably would. Again, I was exactly to your point, just going off of resumes and everything. I mean, if you flip flop Tennessee and Indiana, then it's Notre Dame and Indiana, and then Tennessee and Ohio State, and those are also electric
An
matchups,
all
right?
Indiana
Would love to
affair?
see
That would
Indiana.
be great.
Yep, Indiana. It's the Battle of Indiana, and then it's Tennessee, Ohio State. Like those are great matchups as well. But I mean, who knows? At this point, the important thing to note: Notre Dame is on the inside track. Just take care of business. They are 8-1. Just correcting myself from before. We have 3 games left. So just win your 3, close out fucking business, and things will shake out in our favor. But any more notes on your side, Dylan, in regards to the college football playoff landscape before we head into our picks?
No, I mean, I think a lot of teams have been eliminated here. Let's just maybe briefly talk about, yeah, let's talk about
LSU.
still who still has a chance. So obviously the 12 we just mentioned, okay, plus Boise State. SMU is still in it by way of the ACC title game. They could also get in as an at-large, but I think that's a little unlikely, just with how many teams are ahead of them.
Hmm.
Texas A&M,
Hmm.
their path is through the SEC. If they beat Texas, they're in the SEC championship game. And now here's an interesting for you, Steve. If Texas A&M beats Texas, goes to the championship game, and loses to whoever the hell they play, is Texas A&M in the playoff? Is Texas in the playoff? If we have 4 or 5 or 6 two-loss SEC teams, what happens? And they've all got wins over each other. Like, that's going to be a nightmare for the committee.
What's Occam's razor? Like the most.
Sometimes the simplest solution is the right one.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe not that one. I'm thinking of another theory, Murphy's Law. Everything that could possibly go wrong will
Yeah.
happen, right? Yeah, so this is kind of that 2007 type of feel to this year. No team is safe. There's really no. I guess Oregon is the clear number one, but other than that, everyone feels like they can lose. I mean, Oregon at home barely fucking beat Boise State by the hair of their chinny chin chins. So yeah, Oregon, even though they are 10-0 and number one overall, and probably finish 12-0 and probably win the conference championship, I still don't think that they're like 2022 Georgia. So the point is, this is a wide open playoff bracket. There's a bunch of teams that can make it. Colorado has a
And
path.
Kansas State, because
Um,
one of them will get in the game.
Kansas State has a
Now, do you
path.
think,
Yep.
again, probably not with the amount of SEC teams ahead of them with 2 losses, but do you think 2 Big 12 teams could get in? So let's say BYU loses to either K-State or Colorado in the championship game. What happens? Are you going to take BYU and exclude them from the playoff, drop them from 6 to 14 or something?
There's a chance because let's go through who have they really beaten. They did beat
Yeah,
SMU
who might be the
earlier
ACC
in the
champion,
season,
right?
and they beat the living piss out of Kansas State earlier in the year. They beat Utah by 1, but Utah this year with injuries is like what, 4-5.
Yep.
So that's really not as
I
impressive.
think there's
So
an argument for BYU to still be in the top 12 as a one-loss team.
there is an argument, but I don't
It's
know.
hard to
I
justify
don't.
two
I mean,
Big
there.
12 teams because neither of them would beat any of
Yeah.
these
Well,
teams
first off,
in the top 12.
I mean, this week they should win, even though they're only favored by 2.5 against 3-6 Kansas. So that tells me something. One, two. Next week, BYU is on the road at Arizona State, who is 7-2. So that's a
Yep.
frisky matchup right there. So let's we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. But BYU doesn't have the strongest resume, but I think I don't know, at 11-1 it might be enough, or if they go 12-0 and then if they end up 12-1 with a conference championship loss, like yeah, it's curious.
I think that's probably it for who could get in with, like, Wazoo, potentially, if the Pac-12 is ranked higher than the ACC champion, they could potentially get in. I think that's unlikely.
Mm.
And then I would also, of course, give shout out to Army, Tulane, and Navy, just as a G5 champion. If Boise State were to lose, one of them could get in. Or if Army beats Notre Dame, they're probably in.
Mhm.
Anyway, sorry,
Yeah.
there was, you know how I am, Steve. I had to get through all of that since we started. Who could possibly make it? So,
No, it's all good. It makes a lot of sense. All right, let's get into the picks. We didn't do any picks last week. Obviously, we didn't have an episode. Just life gets in the way, and that's what happens. But thank you for coming back and listening this week's, guys. Starting at there's two 12 o'clock noon games. Starting with number 25, Tulane. On the road at Navy, Tulane is favored by 7.
I'll take Navy to cover, but I'll take Tulane to win.
I'm taking Tulane to cover and to win. I do think it will be close, though. I think 7, honestly, might be the number. I wouldn't be surprised if Navy covers. Wouldn't be surprised if Navy wins, just because they're going to melt the clock as much as they can. But Tulane seems like a fun program, so I'm up in the air about that one. That's not my most
I
confident
love
pick
Tulane, man.
to be
I
quite
want them
candid.
in the ACC so bad. They're in New Orleans.
Yeah.
That's another SEC
hmm
footprint we would get access to. They're a private school. They're a historic school. They've got
hmm
more SEC championships than Texas A&M.
That's
I don't know if
hysterical.
that's true, but it might be
Um,
because I think they're both at 0. But
yeah, facts. Perfect. Now, next up, we have another 12 o'clock noon game. It's number 20, Clemson, on the road at Pitt, who is unranked after losing to Virginia last week. There's an interesting and frisky situation, but Clemson is currently favored by 11.5 points.
yeah, I'll do the same thing again. I'll take Clemson to win, but Pitt to cover.
I'm going to copy you on that one
Is
also.
is Indiana Ohio State this week?
Nope,
Okay,
it's next week.
gotcha.
hmm Yeah. Now for a 4 o'clock game. Both teams unranked, but this is an interesting one, and I'll tell you why. It's Nebraska on the road at USC. USC is favored by 7.5 points. USC is currently 4-5. If they lose this game, they are 4-6, and they still have to play Notre Dame to end the season. So Notre Dame could effectively end even their bowl
Mm-hmm.
hopes. They could end up with a 5-7 record, potentially. So that's a curious wrinkle to this, and why I wanted to include it in this week's picks. So Dylan, take it away.
Yeah, I've picked that out a couple weeks ago. I was looking at USC's schedule, and I'm like, they're gonna have to win 2 of those 3 games to end the year because UCLA is another one, and UCLA is not good, but they always play USC tight, right? Like it's a rivalry game. That is a tough pill to swallow if you're SC to kind of overcome that. What's the line again, Steve?
7.5.
For SC?
USC at
Yeah,
home.
I'm gonna
hmm
take USC to win, and I will take USC to cover. Nebraska chokes harder than USC does, and eventually Lincoln Riley's gonna win a 1-score game that he has a lead in the fourth quarter because he's lost all of them this year, I think.
I'm picking what I'm rooting for, which is the absolute funniest circumstances possible. So please, Dylan Rayola, take those corn huskers and kick the shit out of them. Give me Nebraska money line. Next up, this is a 4:15 p.m. game. It's number 23 Missouri on the road in Columbia at the South Carolina Gamecocks, ranked number 21. Gamecocks are favored by 14 in this game. Curious
Ooh,
number.
that is a lot. Now listen, we know Missouri's a fraud. They lose the only 2 good games they had to play this year. I think their best win is Oklahoma. Just let that sink in for a second. I'm taking the Gamecocks for sure. I'm not taking 14 points, not in the SEC. That is wild. Give me Missouri to cover.
Once again, I'm going to copy you. Yeah, I'll take SC to win. I will take Missouri is frisky enough where they'll keep it close. The true freshman quarterback, Lenora Sellers, in South Carolina. I mean, he's gonna be like the next Cam Newton. But ultimately, I don't think that they got a 14 plus
Are
point
you?
win
I gotta
in,
ask
in
you.
them.
Are you
So
playing defense a little bit because for our listeners at home, Steve has got a lead heading into the last few weeks. And
I have
okay.
it written down
All
ahead of
right,
time.
fair
I
enough.
have it written down ahead of
Because
time.
I'm
All
gonna
right.
get to the point. It's like election night when you got to find the inside straight to carry the presidency. I got to find the right combination here late in this game to surpass you at least straight up. I don't think I'll catch you against the spread. So I'm just checking. I'm just checking. Um,
Well, you just set the table, so give me the full meal here. What's the our standing updates currently?
oh, hold on a sec, Steve. You'll have to riff your little heart out for a second as I pull up.
That's that's fine, and I'll let the audience know that our final game is 7:30 p.m. It's the SEC. It's prime time. It's number 7 Tennessee Volunteers on the road in Sanford Stadium between the hedges against the UGA Bulldogs, ranked number 12. UGA is favored by 9.5 in that game.
Okay, so Steve, you've got a 5 game lead heading into the last few weeks here, and it sucks that we didn't get to an episode last week. Sorry, guys, I was moving and going to Notre Dame, so I didn't have time. Uh, because that would have been 5 more games for me to catch up. So you're currently 38-15, which is astonishing, straight up. I'm 33-20, and P Wagon is very close. He's 34-19, so it's a 3-way race still. Against the spread, Steve, you're an astonishing 32-21. I mean, against the spread, if you're over 500, from what I understand, you're making bank, right? You're good at it. If you're hitting 55%, you're hitting well above that. P Wagon's at 29-24, and I'm at 27-26. All three of us are above 50%, both straight up and against the spread. So it's been a good year of predictions, but you're on a heater, man. You have not cooled down. I think you've made a real effort this year. You're probably subscribed to some kind of secret paid for subscription on picks. You got all the analytics, because this year you're like, I'm gonna beat that little guy. I'm gonna beat him, and boy are you ever.
I wish, man. Only thing that I need to put my extra the only thing I need to put my extra time and effort into is getting the South Carolina state legislator to legalize gambling, so that way I can cash in on this.
VPN.
Yeah, well, fuck me. Yeah, so Tennessee versus UGA. UGA favored by 9.5.
And this is in Athens, right? I'm going to
Correct.
take Georgia, and I will take Tennessee to cover because I do think Tennessee's a good team, and that is a big line.
Okay, it is worth noting that Nico Iamaleava is playing in this game. He's had some injuries, but you know what? Fuck it, I'm going full chaos. I'm going Tennessee money line.
Nice. We love it. We love it. Not just because it gives me a chance to
Perfect.
catch up, because you're willing chaos into existence, Steve, and that is what college football is all about.
Exactly. That pretty much covers it for me. I mean, just looking ahead, we have Virginia this week. It is a 3:30 p.m. kickoff time on NBC. Is this senior day?
Yes, it is.
It is senior day. So congratulations to all the graduating seniors. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I would note about Virginia is they did upset Pittsburgh on the road last week, and they've played some tight games, and they've played some tight games against Notre Dame in recent history. But we do tend to come out on top. But yeah, I mean, we're the better team. We should win. But Dylan, I mean, if you have anything to break down or anything to highlight, go for it now.
Well, what do we always say, Steve? Good teams win, great teams cover. This Notre Dame team is covered, just off the top of my head, I think they've covered every game except NIU and Miami, Ohio. I think they've covered everything else. On top of that, they've blown out everybody. Respect to Virginia, man, but there's no evidence to suggest we should see anything less than what we've seen in the last 8 weeks of play. That's where I'm at with this one.
Perfect. I wrote down a score just now. I agree with you. Good teams win, great teams cover. Notre Dame, just to get that line, is favored by 23.5 points at home on senior day. Dylan, do you want to throw out a score?
Yes. I've got nothing. I'm trying to think of something to say about Virginia to kind of give our audience like, oh, this is some in-depth, cutting-edge podcasting. And I'll be honest with you guys, I don't care about Virginia. You don't care about Virginia. You were
Mhm.
here just to listen to us ramble our nonsense like we always do. So appreciate you tuning in at Horseman Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Steve, I'm going to go 45-10 for the Irish.
41-14.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
We did it again. The only thing that I have worth noting to close out the podcast, just a quick solemn note. Rest in peace, Coach Jerry Faust.
Well said, Steve.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. Dylan, closing thoughts.
Let's talk about Jerry Faust for a second, actually. I watched a video on social media of people talking about Coach Faust and, like, how much he meant to them. And although, the wins and losses weren't there, what kind of man he was and the impact he left on people. And I really don't mean to make this about Brian Kelly like we always do, but do you think anybody will say the same thing about him? The way he touched people's lives? Probably not, right? Like, this is a guy, he had a much better win-loss record than Jerry Faust, but in the history of Notre Dame, I don't think he comes close. And that's what separates Notre Dame, I think, from a lot of different programs, right? Is this transcends football. It's a community. It's an institution. It's a shared history that we pass along generation to generation, right? Every Notre Dame fan knows the Michigan story. That's an oral history for us. What fan base really, really has that? And being at Notre Dame this last weekend, you really get to feel that community. Like, it's so broad, it's so impactful, it's very deep. And it's just a Subway alum too. Like, it's not, I don't mean it's an alumni network that'll get you everywhere. But if you got a Notre Dame hat on and someone's a Notre Dame fan, they'll say hi to you or they'll look out for you. The amount of people that would say "Go Irish" to me over the weekend. I had 4 Notre Dame guys on my flight from Toronto to Chicago, right? Like, it's such a wide community, and I think Jerry Faust really, really touched on that in ways a lot of other coaches couldn't. And despite what that win-loss record says, he'll forever be a Notre Dame man with those sweet unis in the early '80s. So, like you said, rest in peace, Jerry. And yeah, on to the Virginia Cavaliers.
Yeah. As the saying goes, people will always forget what you say, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. And I think Jerry Faust embodied that. So, true Notre Dame man, rest in peace, and sorry to him and his family. But football game Saturday, 3:30. Notre Dame Fighting Irish take care of business, kick their ass, beat the Who's, go Irish.
Go Irish.